I think it's going to do very, very well. I think that we are going to be in a position to pass something as early as next week, which will be monumental.
I think it'll get worked out one way or the other, but it's going to take good faith on both sides to be able to do it.
The tax reform bill is a disaster. It helps the wealthiest, most powerful corporations and individuals, and it hurts the middle class.
I think maybe the most important element people aren't yet thinking about is this April 15th, when you file your taxes, that is the last time you will file under this monstrous broken tax code.
Well, it's in. It's done. They've finished the negotiating, and it is locked in stone. Right now, the bill has been filed, the tax reform bill, in the House, expecting a vote early next week. And here are the details. We put them up before. 7 tax brackets, top rate individually at 37%, taking that down from 39.6%. Doubles the standard deduction for single filers and married couples, lowers the corporate tax, as we talked about, to 21%. That begins January 1st, 2018. You have a continual write-off for state and local taxes up to a certain amount, expands the child tax credit, and that was a sticking point, eliminates the corporate AMT, continues the charitable deduction contributions, provides immediate relief from the death tax or the estate tax by doubling the amount of the current exemption, eliminates the Obamacare individual mandate penalty tax. Today, we heard from Senator Marco Rubio and Senator Bob Corker, who were saying that they were no's and they are now yeses, and that changes the entire math. Let's bring in the panel. Steve Hayes, editor-in-chief for the Weekly Standard. Leslie Marshall, syndicated talk radio host, and Charles Hurt, opinion editor for the Washington Times. Long time coming, Steve. This is finally in stone, and it seems like the momentum is kind of unstoppable right now.
It seems like that. I mean, of course, we've thought that before, and then things have, the obstacles have presented themselves. I think nobody's happier about this than Charlie Hurt, who finally saw that top rate go from 39.6 to 37.
Still too high.
I know. You want to bring it down even further. Look, I think this is, overall, for Republicans, this is important for a couple of reasons. One, it will likely have some economic benefits. This is what Republicans have argued all along. They disagree about exactly what the economic benefits will be and how stimulative it'll be in the short term, but there will be some stimulus. And two, of course, it gives Republicans something to take to voters, and that's going to be very important. I think the inclusion of the expanded child tax credit that Marco Rubio and Mike Lee fought for, really all along, but made a hard push for, beginning this week in a meeting with Senator McConnell. Marco Rubio made the case, said he was going to be a no. It turned out to be a threat that he intended to carry out, and won the argument. I mean, won the battle. I think that's going to be helpful for Republicans as they make the case that this is something for families in the middle class.
And that debate played out today. Senator Portman and the president on this.
And in terms of the child tax credit, I think you'll see some improvements there for folks who are at the lower end of the economic ladder. So I think it'll be a very popular bill, and among our Republican colleagues, I think we'll get the votes.
The Democrats have done nothing in terms of children, in terms of child tax credit. We're putting in a tremendous child tax credit, and it is increasing on a daily basis.
So it goes to $2,000 and now up to 70% for the lower income can essentially be paid out off of this.
And again, look, there is some stuff in here that's good, and certainly stuff that's in here that is good for, my husband and certain people in certain tax brackets. I don't think it addresses all of the concerns that the middle class, especially the blue-collar working class, that put Trump over into that White House with their votes. What do they want? They want job. They want to see money in their fists. They're not getting a check that's cut for $2,000. That's a whole different story when you break it down over 12 months. And when you look at deductions, they are for the rich. I mean, what type of people are itemizing their deductions? Lower middle class Americans in this country aren't doing that. So I don't think it's going to help them in the midterm election. I don't think the child tax credit is enough. Not just that. In addition to that, the polls just show it's not as favorable to the American public. And at the end of the day, this is, hey, look, we finally did something for Republicans, but how much of it is politics, since they can't even really pay for this, versus in the best interest of their constituents?
On the public polling, I mean, it's pretty complex to tell in an elevator story. If by the time you get to 2018 and it sinks in February or March and the economy is rising further than even it is now, that one would think would have benefits across the board.
Absolutely. And of course, the reason that it's so complex to explain in simple terms in the first place is because the stupid tax code is so freaking impossible to understand in the first place, and very wealthy people have to hire people to come and suss it all out and figure out how.
I love your passion on this.
It's unbelievable. But I do think you're exactly right. If at the end of the day this does help the economy and those people do get some of those jobs, and and all you have is Democrats sitting on the sidelines and talking about class warfare, even though their economic improvement situation has improved, and talking about Russia, 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 I think it has a tremendous impact.
To that point, a little montage of the president interacting with the press on the South Lawn this morning.
It's a shame what's happened with the FBI, but we're going to rebuild the FBI. It'll be bigger and better than ever. I think he should. There is absolutely no collusion. That has been proven. My worst enemies, they walk out, they say, there is no collusion, but we'll continue to look. How was the call wonderful? It was great. He said very nice things about what I've done for this country in terms of the economy. I don't want to talk about pardons for Michael Flynn yet. We'll see what happens. Let's see.
So a lot of coverage today about not a pardon yet for Michael Flynn, no collusion, absolutely no collusion, which he said before, and following up on the FBI. And then he went to deliver a speech at the FBI, which he praised heartily.
The remarks he made to the agents and the people that work hard every day to carry out the mission of the FBI couldn't have been more complimentary and positive. And so he left all of his stinging rebukes for the upper echelons of the FBI on the White House lawn, which I thought was probably a smart way of handling that.
Leslie.
Well, they weren't in the audience, right? At the last minute tip, they said, there's not enough room. You know, you guys can stay. And not that they were going to come anyway. Look, I think the whole email thing is stupid. I think it was stupid for the two people to be corresponding like
you mean
this.
The text
text messages, you know, emails that they had to one another. The reality is that whether we work inside the Beltway or outside, we have opinions, and we have political opinions and political leanings. And there are a lot of people that I know, even Republicans, who don't favor this president or some of the things that he says. But, you know, these individuals also, you know, bash Democrats, Eric Holder, Chelsea Clinton, the list goes on. The problem that I have with what we saw, the montage and other things that the president has done, is it's, do you believe him then or do you believe him now, right? I mean, because he's, you know, rebuking the FBI, and then he stands there in front of law enforcement and talks about what a great law enforcement team that we have in this nation, as we do, and forgetting that FBI is part of that great, big law enforcement team. The same thing with Roy Moore. I back the guy. You know, he denies it. He said he didn't do it. I back the guy. I'd rather have a Republican. You got to concede. You know, I mean, he flip-flops.
Well, he had already made the call to Doug Jones to congratulate him on his win.
Right.
Steve.
Yeah, look, I think the issue with the text messages is whether these private views, which I think virtually everybody agrees that they're allowed to have, affected their judgments or their actions in carrying out their responsibilities as public servants. And I think there are texts that suggest they might have. It's worth looking into. I don't think the president should have answered the question about a pardon for Michael Flynn the way that he did. It's not appropriate for the president of the United States to say that he's considering a pardon for Michael Flynn, even as he's saying he's not considering a pardon for Michael Flynn by saying yet. He should have just passed on the question. He should do that next time he's asked, because he'll be asked again.